Okay, let's go ahead and get started today. My name is Jamie Phelps. I'm the Client Success Lead here at Voyant, and today's webinar is going to be on covering the basics of presenting a plan in Voyant. We were going to cover today basic data review, the timeline, goals, events, the Let's See screen, and presenting proposals such as what-if scenarios. Today's webinar is going to be recorded, and you will receive a recording after the webinar is completed, usually within 24 hours. And we are not going to open up today's webinar for questions, but if you have any follow-up questions, I ask that you email me at support@planwithvoyant.com. When you are preparing for your client to come in for your presentation, I would suggest a couple of things before they come in as you're preparing the dashboard. The first is you'll notice we have a lot of these little hyperlinks around the plan. These are really helpful as you are navigating around the software and doing your planning because they have some various information attached to them, but they can be a little distracting if you accidentally click on them while you're presenting to your clients. So I would suggest that you turn off your inline help. And then I can also say that the dashboard can be a little bit distracting when you're having your initial data review with your client. So I would also suggest that you turn off the dashboard chart when you are doing the initial data review with your client. So these are the two things that I would suggest turning off when you're going to do your initial conversation with your client. To do that, you're going to navigate over to the silhouette icon in the top right corner and go over to User Preferences. Go to the Show Dashboard Chart and select No, and go to Inline Help and select No. And these will just temporarily turn these options off, and then to turn them back on afterwards, you'll just click Yes back again to turn them back off or turn them back on. Now, when you are going to be meeting with your client, you also have some options here as far as which charts you would like to display for your meeting. You have the assets versus debts chart, and this is going to show assets, debts, and net worth. You can also select down here if you would like to do assets by type. This will show qualified, non-liquid, and taxable. Or you can do asset allocation, and then you have the option to do a pie graph or a bar chart. So that would be up to you. I'll just leave this on assets versus debts. And then for your data review, you can either do the drop down arrow here and open up everything and just go through item by item, or you can keep these all closed and go through them one by one and review each item as you go. So as you're going through each item with your client, you would just review these numbers with them and make sure you have all of your information up to date. So you would go through here, for example, and make sure your employment income information is up to date. Once you've done that, go down to the savings and investments information. Make sure the information you have not only on the balances, but also the contribution amounts is correct, and then you would click done to save that information. We also have this option here to show overview, so you can click this option, and this also will show them the asset allocation for this grouping. And you can still click these items here and open them up and make adjustments to the contributions and the balances and click done to save. And then if you want to go back to your dashboard, you would just click this back button to take you back. So once you have gone through all of these items and made sure that all of the data in the plan is up to date, I would suggest going over to the timeline. And again, you're just going to be working your way right to left here. And you're going to go to the timeline, which is going to be a great section to have deeper conversations with your clients about their life goals and what they're planning for. This is where you're going to have more focused conversations about goal-based planning and what it is that you're doing through your planning to help them achieve the things that they really want to achieve in their lifetime. Now, you can do this as an entire family picture, or you can bring different people out of the plan and have a one-on-one conversation with different people at a time. So for example, we could talk about John first, and we know based on our last conversations with John that he really wants to buy a boat when he turns 62. The last conversation with us, he had a budget in mind of $75,000. Is that still an accurate budget? Is that still a goal of his? Does he still think that he wants to do that around age 62? Do we need to bring that up to a little bit sooner, or do we need to keep that the same? And do we need to add in any additional goals? If we want to add in any additional goals, we can do that by clicking the plus button here in the bottom right hand corner, clicking goals, and then we can just add in any additional goals that we need to based on those conversations that we're having with them in real time. So it's really a quick and easy way to do some dynamic planning while we're having those conversations. And then we can bring John back out of it and bring Jane in. Last time we had a conversation with Jane, she wanted to do a kitchen remodel at age 52, gave us a budget of $50,000. Is that something that she's still planning on doing? And again, we can adjust the budget if we need to. We can even remove it if it's something she's decided not to do. And then we can make adjustments on the fly if needed and add additional goals. And then for Oliver, we can talk about his education planning and whether or not we're on track with that. And then we can talk about our retirement goals, which we are getting close to meeting. And then we can talk about some of the ideas that we have for getting a little bit closer to where we need to be with where we're going on the retirement planning. Now, once we've had the conversations that we need to have in this section, we're going to move over to our Let's See screen. And the Let's See screen is going to be where we're going to do our cash flow conversations. Now, if your clients are not familiar with cash flow planning, this is going to be where you might want to do a little bit of education around cash flow planning. You might want to have some conversations with them about what they're looking at here. So I'm going to bring in the details here, and we might even hide all and just have a conversation with them about their expense profile throughout the lifetime of their plan. So you can see that this is going to be an estimated expenses, and this is going to include just general living expenses, estimated income taxes. You can see our spikes here when we're doing our kitchen remodel. There's a little bit more in expenses the years that Oliver is in university, and the year that John wants to buy a boat, and then the years where they're going to be traveling more heavily. And then you can see that those expenses drop down a little bit when they start slowing down on their travel. And so you can kind of get a sense for when they're spending a little bit more and when their expenses lull a little bit, so that they can get a sense for what their expenses look like over the lifetime of their plan. Then you might slowly start to bring back in their fixed incomes, like their employment, and you can show them sort of in their accumulation years where they might have some room to potentially save a little bit more. So you might have some conversations with them about some of the surplus income that you're showing in these years, and whether or not the expenses that you're modeling right now is accurate. So you're showing, for example, this year that they have surplus income close to $40,000, and whether or not that's accurate, and some ideas you might have for what we could do to better capture that income in a more productive way. And then we could bring in their estimated Social Security that comes into the plan at 67, and then talk about how far that gets them in retirement, and then bring back in to the plan the planned retirement income that you're helping them with through their retirement savings, their brokerage account, and then even the university savings that Oliver's going to be using for university, having some conversations with them about all of the different needs that they have there, and then all of the shortfall that we still have in the plan after that tax-free Roth and qualified accounts starts to run out at age 87, what we still have to make up in those final years. And then we can switch over to some different charts. So we can look at our assets chart, and we can even pull out some different items like their main residence. So if you wanted to remove our illiquid assets and just look at liquid assets, we can do that by just clicking off of this item here. And we can just look at when their liquid assets runs out, and you can see that corresponds with the age 87 that we were just talking about. And you can see at that point, they just have their high yield savings account at that point, which has a withdrawal limit on it. So that's just their emergency fund. And so you talk to them again, bring it back to that conversation that you had earlier when you were talking about the surplus income they have in their early years, and maybe how you can better capture some of that money and start contributing it into an account where you can grow those funds. And then you can even going back to our cash flow chart, you can even zoom in on different portions of the plan by clicking this zoom option here. So if you wanted to look at different parts of the plan and different times of the plan, you can do so by clicking on the zoom portion and just looking at those accumulation years in more detail, and then going into the early retirement years, and then those later retirement years where we're starting to run out of money. And then you can even do that in the assets chart here, again, to pinpoint kind of when we're starting to run out of money here. You can show them what's left in their plan at the end, at this point in their current position, without any additional savings. And then you can look at all of the different charts here, kind of depending on their situation and what is relevant to them. We also have the taxes chart here. I'm going to zoom out again. So I'm going to turn off my zoom and bring it back the whole chart. So you can show them their full cumulative expected taxes for the lifetime of the plan. And again, we can just bring it back to the full cash flow chart. So that is the Let's See screen. And then depending on the client's situation, this couple has a young child, so I think it would be relevant to them. You might review our legacy screen. So this is going to review their estate at the end of the plan. You can take a look at what they would be expecting to pass to their heir. So we can see here they have a total wealth transfer after tax of $1.8 million. They are not going to be expecting any estate tax on their plan. And if you wanted to see what exactly it is that they're passing, it's going to be this property. You can turn on the dots and dashes here to see the details. So they have that high yield savings account and then their illiquid asset of their main residence, which has an estimated value of $1.7 million at that point. And so you can see the details of that. You can see that what the estate tax exemption is, and they don't meet that, so there's no estate tax on this plan. And then if you want to see, this is their planned legacy, which in this plan is age 90. You can also see what happens if somebody dies today. Then you can see the life insurance payment triggered if they have life insurance in the plan that falls within the term. You can see what this scenario would look like, and if there's any debts, those would be paid back. You can see what this looks like in the plan, and then you can even model a scenario if both die today. If you have some clients who want to make sure that their child would be taken care of and want to see what that would look like, you can see the total wealth transfer so that you can show them what they would be leaving to their child. So this might be relevant to some clients, but not all. You would know your clients better than anyone as to whether or not this page would be relevant to them. The next thing I wanted to show you is our insights section. So this is going to be a section where we have a lot of problem solving and stress testing calculators in here. And what you decide to run is going to be completely based on what's going on in your client's plan. So in this plan, there is some red and there is some shortfall. So I would take a look at a few different things in here. The first thing I wanted to look at is investment returns. Is there a solution in here where we could put them in a more aggressive portfolio and fix some of their problems? So we can look at a required rate of return as maybe a partial solution. So they would need to get a required rate of return of 7.13 to prevent any future shortfall in the plan. So that is good information to know. And you as the advisor could determine whether or not that is a realistic option or part of a solution. Going back to the insights again, we did see a lot of surplus income in the accumulation years. So let's take a look at our annual savings and see what we get. This would give us an amount that our clients need to save in the accumulation years annually in order to prevent future shortfall. So we get an annual savings need of 5,838, and that would prevent future shortfall. And if you want to compare their cash flow plan against what they currently are looking like, you can just click this compare to plan and it will show you the difference between the two plans. And then going back to our insights again, one of the accounts that our clients had was a traditional 401k. So you might also run a Roth conversion and see if converting one of the traditional 401ks into a Roth might be part of a solution for them. So let's say he converted all of that into a Roth and did that over the course of a few years. Could that be part of a solution? You can run a bunch of different insights here, and maybe there would be some mixture of solutions that you looked at, and you could see whether or not that would buy them a couple of years of extra liquidity. So that could be, again, part of an overall solution, but it wouldn't fix all of their problems. So again, there is a lot of different insights in here, and you as the advisor could go through here and make some decisions based on what your client's needs are and decide what you wanted to advise them to do. And again, there's some other ones in here for when they got a little further along in their plan regarding long-term care and Social Security, break-even age that might be good for them kind of later in their planning life. And so I wanted to also show you, I created a what if plan, and all I did was go to this what if section here and created a copy of their current position, and I called it Save More. So I used that annual savings insight where they gave us a figure of 5,838, and I created a what if plan called Save More, and this is it right here. And I took that figure and I added it into our brokerage account here and made it a contribution. And so now what I'm going to do is use this compare plans chart view to propose this to my clients so that they can now see what my recommendation is to them. And I'm going to show them the difference between saving more in their accumulation years and how that would give them some additional peace of mind and some additional security in their later years. And you can simply show them in this side-by-side view, compare plans chart view. You can show them on the cash flow screen here what that would buy them an additional liquidity. And then also on the assets view, if you pull out their main residence, because again, it's not relevant to this conversation, you can show them how much further that takes their assets. They would have 2.5 million left in assets at the end of their plan as opposed to 79,185. So you can see the difference very starkly there side by side, and it's very easy for your clients to see the difference in just that little bit of extra contribution. And again, going back to cash flow, if you hover over the difference, they're still not in the red in their accumulation years. And going over to overview, if we look at the legacy difference, so we can see the comparison. So let's take a look at current position and save more side by side. So compare plans if they have some concerns about how much they're leaving to their child. Not only would they be leaving quite a bit more to their son, they would also have a lot more left over in the case of the unexpected, like a long-term care need or any other unexpected needs that life can throw at us. Next thing I wanted to show you is reports. So if you wanted to send your clients with a report version of what I've just showed you, you could select a version of this. So you would select a version of a report, and annual savings would be the insight that I showed you, and then I would do cash flow and assets, and up here, review configuration. So since this client is still very early in their planning, they're still fairly young, you would have the option to perhaps not run a report on the next 50 years of their life if you did not want to. So for these detailed reports, and that's going to be these reports down here that would generate pages and pages of reports. If you want to, you have the option here to go to these three dots and configure. And if you wanted to, you could run a report for every 5th year or the first 5 years, or you could even do a timeline specific. So if you wanted to run a report that's just for the first 5 years, you could do that. You could do 2025 to 2035 and just do a specific timeline for that detailed report. That would be completely up to you. But just so you're aware, that would be how you would configure a report for just a specific timeline. And you can even create a note right here if you wanted to. We discussed annual savings figure of XYZ into brokerage account. And then you could create that note, and then that would print out on the report, and it would be saved into the report that would be given to them. So that would be how you would generate the report, and that would be sent to them. So I hope that that was helpful. If you have any questions, or if you're working in a plan and you have questions and you'd like for us to review them, you can always click the name of your client in the top right, and you can request support. Enter your question into the text box and share client access. This will send us a copy of the client plan and allow us to open them. And then we can answer your question, take a look at the plan, and help out. We can also schedule a one-on-one session with you and help you prepare for any presentations that you have coming up. So I hope that that was helpful, and we would be happy to set up a time to go over any upcoming presentations that you have. Thank you for listening.